He was on his knees, clutching my suitcase like it was his lifeline. Tears were flooding his face, choking his voice as he begged me not to leave. I stood in the doorway, unmoved, untouched, unbothered. And then I laughed. A sharp, heartless laugh that echoed in the hallway. I yanked the door shut behind me, silencing his sobs. It was over. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, I want to say a huge thank you for stopping by. And to all my loyal viewers who keep coming back, you mean everything to me. Your support gives this channel life. And for those of you who are watching but have not subscribed yet, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It fuels my passion, it keeps the stories coming. Also, do not forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts after this video. Let us talk about betrayal, choices, and the price of pleasure. My name is Kayla Henderson. I was 32 years old when I laughed at the man who loved me most. A man I once vowed to honor and cherish. His name was Ben. He was everything people said I should want: reliable, kind, faithful. And yet, I broke him. Not by accident. Not in a moment of weakness. I broke him with intent. We lived in suburban Illinois. A quiet neighborhood lined with clean sidewalks, trimmed hedges, and smiling neighbors who waved at us on Sundays. From the outside, our life looked ideal. I was a marketing coordinator at a mid-level firm. Ben worked in insurance, solid job, stable hours. We drove decent cars, paid our bills, and hosted BBQs in the backyard. People admired us. They should not have. Behind our front door, the silence between us was louder than anything else. Ben was always tired. Always preoccupied with savings accounts, life insurance policies, and grocery coupons. He loved me, yes. But he did not see me anymore. He touched me like I was made of glass, careful, polite, and always too fast. The man who once sent roses to my office every week now forgot my birthday unless his mother reminded him. I tried, for a while. I tried to talk, to spice things up, to schedule date nights. But he always had some excuse. After a while, I stopped trying. That was when I joined the gym. Not for health. Not for fitness. I joined to feel something. That was where I met Drew. Drew was not like Ben. He was raw masculinity in motion. He had tattoos that crept up his arms, a crooked smile, and that low, raspy voice that made every word sound like a dare. He was my personal trainer, but he quickly became something else. It started with the way his hands lingered too long when adjusting my form. The way he looked me up and down when I walked in. The flirtation was dangerous. And I loved it. One rainy Thursday night, after a late session, it happened. I told Ben I had a company dinner. I wore a black dress that Drew had complimented before. When he opened the hotel door, he barely said a word. He just pulled me inside like he had been starving for weeks. And I let him consume me. That night, I betrayed my husband. And I did not regret it. Not at first. The thrill was intoxicating. The secrecy made it sweeter. Every lie I told Ben became easier. I downloaded fake schedule apps. I told him I was volunteering at women's events. I even said I was helping my sister plan a wedding. Meanwhile, I was tasting sin on linen sheets. Ben noticed the change. He began leaving notes in my purse. Sweet things. Things I used to crave. He would wake up early to make me breakfast. He started touching me more, asking questions, trying. But it was too late. I had already stepped into another world. And I had no intention of returning. I told myself I deserved this. That a woman like me should not have to beg for passion. I told myself that if Ben really loved me, he would have seen me fading. But deep down, I knew I was crossing lines I could never uncross. Then one night, Ben broke. I came home late, smelling of Drew's cologne and sweat. Ben was sitting on the living room floor, knees to his chest, tears streaming down his face. He looked broken. He asked me if there was someone else. I lied. But his eyes told me he already knew. For weeks, he tried to salvage our marriage. He booked counseling sessions I never attended. He cooked, cleaned, begged. And I laughed. I mocked his desperation. I called it pathetic. I told myself I was strong for not caring. Until that morning. I packed my suitcase while he slept. I had booked a small apartment close to Drew's. I had no real plan, just a burning desire to be free. When Ben woke up, he saw the packed bag. He rushed to me, asking me not to go. His voice cracked, his hands trembled. He said he would do anything. That he would forgive me. I looked him in the eye. I told him he was too late. He fell to the floor, hugging my legs, sobbing. I pulled away. I opened the door. And then I laughed. That moment. His broken cry against my cold smirk was the final blow. I slammed the door shut behind me. And walked straight into the arms of the man I thought I wanted. But I had no idea. The worst was yet to come. I thought I was walking into freedom. I thought leaving Ben would unlock a version of myself I had buried under years of dull routines and lukewarm affection. I imagined life with Drew would be wild, passionate, and full of late-night laughter wrapped in tangled sheets. I thought I would finally be seen, worshipped, devoured. But what I stepped into was not a romance. It was a cage dressed up in lust. When I moved into that tiny apartment across town, Drew seemed thrilled. At first. He showed up with wine and a smirk, tossed his gym bag on my couch, and pulled me into his arms like I was a prize he had finally won. That first week was intoxicating. We barely left the bed. He made me feel wanted, claimed. For the first time in years, I felt young again. But the shift came fast. And it came hard. It began with little things. He would ask where I had been when I ran errands. He would check my phone screen when a notification popped up. One night, he demanded to know why I had liked a photo of an old high school friend on Instagram. I laughed it off, called it jealousy. Maybe even passion. But jealousy can rot into something darker. And it did. Drew started showing up at my job unannounced. He would sit in his car in the parking lot, texting me repeatedly to come outside. If I took too long, he would accuse me of seeing someone else. If I did not answer, he would call 10 times in a row. I once came home to find him sitting outside my door, drunk, slouched against the wall with red eyes and a bottle in his hand. He said he missed me. Said he thought I was lying about working late. I had left a man who cried when I walked away, only to end up with a man who would scream if I walked too far. The worst part? I stayed. Because I told myself I had already burned my bridges. There was nowhere else to go. I had humiliated Ben. I had shut that door with laughter. I had chosen this. So now I had to live with it. But the truth was, I had chosen a lie. Drew was not who I thought he was. One night, I noticed his phone vibrating over and over while he was in the shower. The screen lit up with the same name, Samantha. At first, I told myself it was a client. Maybe a cousin. But the texts were coming too frequently. Curiosity won. I opened the phone. He had never changed the passcode, still the same birthday he gave me the first week we met. The first thing I saw was a photo. A woman, blonde, stunning, standing in front of a baby shower banner. Only 3 weeks to go. We love you, babe. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through message after message. There were voice notes, videos, saved photos of ultrasounds. She was not just some girl. She was his fiancée. And she was pregnant. The room spun. I felt bile rise in my throat. When Drew came out of the bathroom, I was sitting on the bed holding his phone in my hand. His expression shifted from confusion to rage in half a second. He lunged. He tried to snatch the phone. I screamed. For the first time since I met him, I saw violence in his eyes. Not passion. Not lust. Just cold, electric rage. I shoved past him, ran barefoot down the apartment hallway and locked myself in the laundry room. I stayed there, shaking, until he left. That night, I understood fear. I had mocked Ben for crying. I had called his love weak. But here I was, hiding from a man who once kissed my shoulder and called me magic. Days passed. Drew stopped texting. Stopped calling. It was over. But I could not go back. I called my sister, Lena, and lied. I said I was going through something complicated and needed to stay with her for a while. She did not ask questions. She never liked Ben, and she always said I deserved someone more exciting. I never told her what Drew did. I did not tell anyone. I was too ashamed. But the punishment was just beginning. One day, I walked into the grocery store to pick up a few things. I bumped into an old neighbor from my street. Her name was Kelly. Sweet woman. Church-going. She looked at me with a cold smile. Ben seems to be doing really well. New job, new house, and I think a new girlfriend too. He deserves it, honestly. Her words hit me like a slap. New girlfriend? I smiled, nodded politely, and kept walking. But inside, I was unraveling. Not because I still loved Ben, but because it stung to know he had moved on. He was healing. He was doing better. And I was lost. I went home and searched his name online. He had updated his LinkedIn. He was now the director of a new insurance firm. The profile photo showed him smiling, confident. He had lost weight. His skin glowed. He looked reborn. A few more clicks, and I found her. A woman named Renee. Elegant. Soft eyes. An art therapist. Her Instagram was full of photos of flowers, poetry, and couples hikes. There was one photo of her and Ben holding hands at a vineyard. The caption read, "Sometimes the universe waits to give you what you truly deserve." That was when I knew. Ben never broke. He bent. He begged. But he never broke. He let me walk away. He let me laugh. But the man I shattered had picked up his pieces and built a new life without me. And I was stuck in a pit of regret. The calls stopped coming. My job became suffocating. My sister's apartment felt like a box. And when I looked in the mirror, I did not see the confident, desirable woman I once thought I was. I saw someone used. I saw a woman who had burned down her own house for a fire that never warmed her. One morning, I gathered the courage to text Ben. Just a simple message. "I am sorry. For everything." No reply. An hour passed. 2. Nothing. I had become invisible to the man who once cried at my feet. I deserved that. And for the first time, I understood the weight of my choices. Not just the betrayal. Not just the affair. But the cruelty. The mocking laugh. The door slammed with finality. The belief that I was untouchable. But karma does not rush. It waits. And then it strikes. I lost my job 2 months later. Budget cuts, they said. Drew? He never reached out again. Ben? I never heard from him again either. But I saw him. Once. He was walking down the street with Renee. They looked peaceful. In love. He was holding her hand the way he used to hold mine. Except now, it looked real. He looked whole. And I looked away. Because the truth had finally settled in. The man I left in tears had rebuilt himself. But I had laughed my way into a life I no longer recognized. I used to believe that walking away was power. That shutting a door on someone who cried for me made me strong. That leaving Ben in a pile of tears while I laughed and sauntered off into the arms of another man proved that I was fearless. But power built on cruelty does not last. And strength born from selfishness always crumbles. What followed after I left Ben was not the freedom I had fantasized about. It was a slow unraveling of every lie I had built my world upon. It did not happen all at once. It came in waves, quiet, unassuming, but strong enough to knock me off my feet each time. After I lost my job, my savings began to shrink fast. I had no fallback plan. The apartment I was renting with the belief that Drew and I would eventually make it became a prison of overdue bills and suffocating silence. Drew never returned, never explained. He ghosted me completely. The final humiliation came through a mutual friend. She messaged me one night, asking, "Did you know Drew got married last weekend?" I stared at the screen, breath caught in my chest. Married. Not to me. Not even a breakup. Just a disappearance, followed by a wedding. He had played me. He had used me as the escape route while his real life took shape elsewhere. Just like I had used Ben. I stared at the ceiling that night, numb. The only sound was the clock ticking on my wall, a mocking reminder of how much time I had wasted chasing a fantasy that never wanted me. I remember looking through old photos on my phone. Most of them were of Ben. Sunday brunches, little road trips, the day he surprised me with a puppy. I had forgotten how warm his smile used to be when I walked into a room. How his eyes would light up when I laughed at something stupid. I had killed that man. No, I had not physically harmed him. But I had murdered his innocence. I had laughed in the face of his love. I had made him feel small and disposable. And now I was the one discarded. A few months later, I got a job at a small real estate agency, not glamorous, barely paid enough to cover rent, but it was something. The co-workers were cold at first. They had seen my resume. One even whispered about me in the break room, calling me the woman who left her husband for a gym fling. I had no idea how people knew, but they did. Reputation, like truth, finds its way through cracks. I stopped going out. I barely spoke to anyone unless I had to. I deleted my Instagram. Avoided mutual friends. I went ghost. I was not running from others. I was hiding from myself. One evening, I drove back to my old neighborhood. I told myself it was just for closure. The streets still looked the same, perfect lawns, kids riding bikes, porch lights flickering to life as the sun dipped behind the trees. I parked across the street from his old house. It had been repainted. A soft cream color now, with navy blue shutters. There were flower beds near the porch. Fresh mulch. 2 wine glasses on the porch table. I saw Ben step outside. He looked happy. He was wearing a white shirt, sleeves rolled up, casual jeans. He had that effortless confidence now. The kind that only comes when you have survived heartbreak and risen from it stronger. Then I saw her, Renee. She walked up behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist, and kissed his cheek. He smiled. Not the smile he used to force with me. This one was real. Relaxed. Whole. They looked like the life I once had. No. They looked like the life I thought I deserved but never earned. I wanted to cry. But I did not. I did not have the right. I had cried all my tears for a man who never truly wanted me. And I had none left for the man I broke. I drove away before they could see me. My chest felt heavy, but there was something sobering in that moment. For the first time, I stopped blaming everyone else. I stopped blaming Ben for being boring. I stopped blaming Drew for being a liar. I stopped blaming the world for not making me feel alive. I blamed me. I had it all. And I threw it away because I mistook consistency for complacency. I mistook a quiet man's love for weakness. And I mistook lust for liberation. But now I understood something I wish someone had told me years ago. Real love does not always roar. Sometimes, it whispers through the small things, the morning coffee already poured, the call to ask if you got home safe, the hands that hold you even when you're hard to love. I had destroyed that kind of love. And the consequences came knocking. Not in screaming confrontations or public disgrace. But in loneliness. In silent rooms. In unanswered texts. In jobs that paid little and lives that felt empty. In the sound of a door being shut forever on a man who once would have done anything to keep me. Ben had moved on. He had healed. And me? I had learned. The hard way. So, if you are watching this and you are toying with a heart that beats only for you, pause. Think. Because some doors, once shut, never open again. And one day, you might find yourself on the outside, watching through the window, wondering how it all slipped through your fingers.